So Lauren, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Okay. Buenos días, buenos días, buenos días a todos esta mañana. Good morning, everyone. I am Lauren Levins. I am the sponsorship chair for the Global Opportunities Committee, and we are ecstatic to have you here with us today. And of course, it was absolutely fitting for me to start us off in Spanish, right? Because we are here today to talk about opportunities in Latin America. Now, before I jump into that and I get into all the wonderful nitty gritty and we get down to the panel, there are a couple of things that I want to make sure that I share with you guys about the Global Opportunities Committee. We would love for you guys to come and join us on Thursdays. It's the last Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. We have our general body meeting, and we would love to have so many of you come and join and become a part of the Global Opportunities Committee. But before you can do that, you definitely have to be a member of the Atlanta Black Chambers. And let me tell you, you do not want to miss that opportunity. I cannot express enough the impact that the Atlanta Black Chambers has had on my business, as well as me as a person as a whole. It has just been a tremendous blessing to me. And I would like to express that you guys definitely want to come and check us out on our Tuesday Talks calls every Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. to learn a little bit more about the chambers. If you have not had the opportunity to be exposed to such a wonderful group of individuals who are all entrepreneurs and looking to work and build and collaborate together. And of course, once you become a part of the Atlanta Black Chambers and you understand that mission of truly being an organization about the growth and sustainability of Black-owned businesses across the country, you come on over here to the Global Opportunities Committee, join us for our meetings, and then you're going to see why the Atlanta Black Chambers is going to be on a whole nother level, because we're taking it global, y'all. We are taking our organization to an entirely different level, and we want to make sure that our Black-owned businesses have all of the opportunities and all the information to be able to embark upon those endeavors across the world, which is why we are also excited to announce about our trip to Cali, Colombia in August. We have a group of us who are traveling to Colombia, and we are going to make sure we explore all of the opportunities that are available to us to be able to really take our businesses to the next level. So you guys, make sure you come out, make sure you come and join the Atlanta Black Chambers, make sure you come and you join the Global Opportunities Committee, our meeting every Thursday night at 7 p.m. And then you can be with us on our next trip to one of our countries that we're going to travel to and continue to build our partnerships and close these gaps and build these bridges. I'm going to turn it over to you, Ricardo.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for that. And want to recognize some of our other leaders on the call. We do have our co-chair, Sonia Boatwright is here, Akita Patterson, who leads marketing for us, and Melba Clayton, our secretary, and as well, I do believe we have our president here as well. So just want to recognize our president, Melvin Coleman, and to all of you, good morning. We have an esteemed lineup of panelists for you today, and we certainly want you to hear from them. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce them to you, but I'd like to just mention to you that we may run a little bit over given the 8 or so panelists that we have. And just wanting to make clear that to you today, that if we do run over, please forgive us, but we may extend this to another 15 or so minutes just so that we can take your questions and we can allow interaction with the panelists. So without further ado, we will be introducing our panelists, starting with the ladies, and Milou Williams from Argentina will be starting us off.
Okay, thank you very much, Ricardo, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from Buenos Aires. I'm here in the city of Buenos Aires in Argentina, where I've lived all my life. I'm a coach, mentor, and networker by nature with vast experience in events and project management. I help people, individuals, entrepreneurs, and organizations think outside the box and get to their full potential and out of their comfort zones. And I'm passionate for impact and purpose. This is why I got to know Ricardo, and I've been helping with his business in Purposely. So I'm really happy to be here and talk about the opportunities that we have from my side in Argentina. And I would like to first introduce Argentina as from two sides. One side is the one that distinguishes and gives us unicorns. Those unicorns are these big companies with a value market of $1 billion, and they are 10 years or less out there. And we have a bunch of them, really good companies and excellent examples that they are obviously global companies. And from the other side, we have this other reality that it's also common in many countries of Latin America, full of vulnerability, full of poverty, and where we also can find a lot of possibilities to help, to be generous. And this is where I'm also volunteering. I'm a mentor of migrants that come to Argentina looking for freedom, free public universities, schools, and health. So I would like to bring you these general consumption and experience of what Argentina can give as opportunities to all the region and the continent. From one side, all the possibilities related to entrepreneurship, technology, unicorns, a strategic cooperation between companies, and from the other side, all the needs that are related to poverty, vulnerability, where we also have a lot of migrants from other countries of the continent that are really needing a lot of help. And there are many organizations, some of them are also here in the audience, that are really helping these migrants and vulnerable people to succeed, to be able to create their own entrepreneurship, to have their skills. So there is a lot of work to do there with international organizations, with chambers like you, because, for example, the Afro-Latin communities that are here in Argentina, they are not well organized. They are present in groups because they relate to one nation, to one country, but they don't have this whole spirit that I see that you have with the Atlanta Black Chamber. And I think that would be great to have in these cases, to help them bring out all the potential and all the skills that they can have and they need to succeed in life from the vulnerable side. So this is my presentation. I'm here to help, and I love creating bonds. I'm a bridge person, so I hope I can bring this bridge to you to create new opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Milu. I appreciate that and your thought process on Argentina. I'll be interjecting with some housekeeping. So as you listen, we want you to formulate your questions. You can place them in the chat. We'll have a block at the end of the webinar for questions, but questions that you are burning with, you can put them in the chat and we'll do our best to get them answered right away for you. I'd also like you to keep your mics on mute. We will unmute you if you accidentally unmute yourself. We'll mute you rather. So please keep your microphones on mute. Now I want to introduce you to Andrea Martinez, who is based in Colombia, and she's an attorney. And Andrea, your introduction.
Thank you, Ricardo. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, the Atlanta Black Chamber, for this invitation. My name is Andrea Martinez. As Ricardo said, I'm located in Bogota, Colombia. I'm a lawyer. who specialize in data protection and intellectual property. I'm also a partner at Martinez Devia y Asociados law firm. Our law firm covers different legal areas, one of which is related to the support of companies in all legal aspects, but particularly those related to foreign investment. As far as my role in the firm goes, I help companies that are in the field of information technology and creative industry. I would like to start saying that here in Colombia, we can say that there are not specific laws for Afro investors, but there are specific laws for our Afro communities, such as Law 70 of 1983, which provides protections for these communities. There are benefits and specific policies to promote the inclusion and development of Black communities in the business sector. There are different measures that have been implemented to foster the inclusion of Black communities in formal economy. For example, financial and technical support programs have been created for entrepreneurships and productive projects led by individuals from these communities. Also, incentive and hires quotas have also been established in both in the public and the private sectors, aiming to promote employment, inclusion, and access to economic opportunities for Black communities. Moreover, training and business programs specifically targeting Black communities have been implemented to raise their skills and knowledge in areas such as administration, business management, and access to market. But as I mentioned, all of the law for investors are for all of the investors that come to Colombia. So I would like to start with the general benefits for investors in Colombia, and then I would like to talk about a little bit the sector that I'm working with, that is the technological sector. First, the Colombian political constitution guarantees equal treatment between foreign investment and domestic investment, which means that all of the laws that are applied to national companies are going to be applied to foreign investors as well. Colombia also is an emerging economy, which has been growing at the average of GDP growth rate around 3% in recent years. For example, in the first quarters of 2023, Colombia's GDP growth was 3%. The arts, entertainment, and technology sectors were some of the main contributors to this growth. Colombia also has international investments agreements, such as free trade agreements, as well as agreements to prevent double taxation. For example, the free trade agreement between Colombia and the United States has generated several benefits for both countries. Some of the key benefits include that the FTA reduced tariff and trade barriers between Colombia and the United States, also provides a very stable legal framework, also has allowed for the diversification of export offering from both countries. And this agreement is focused on one very important point, that is the intellectual property rights. Now in Colombia, it's very important to respect the intellectual property, because now it's considered that the 80% of the value of a company are the intangible assets. Additionally, Colombia location, it's very important because it has like a strategic access to the entire continent from the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean, and also Colombia shares borders with Venezuela, Brazil, Ecuador, Peru, and Panama that make the exchange of goods and services become much, much easier. The domestic market of over 51 million inhabitants position Colombia as the third most populated country in Latin America, with the advantages of having predominantly young population. Our population, the 57% of our population is between 15 and 54 years old. Also, our country has a working force that stand out for a very high level of education. Among the graduates between 2016 and 2022, around 50% acquired a university degree, 30% acquired technical and technological training, and 50% acquire a master's degree. Regarding this type of degrees acquired that stand out the most, around 40% are in economist and administration, 24% in engineering and architecture, and 16% in social science and humanities. Now, in Colombia, in terms of sectors with investment opportunities, software and outsourcing services are two areas that have experienced significant growth in recent years. This has been thanks to the increasing demand of digital solutions by companies and organizations, and also due to the digitalization that is taking place, especially after the pandemic, not just here in Colombia, but all around the world. Another benefit that could have the investors in Colombia is that the information technology and creative industries is characterized by having one of the largest workforce in the region. In Colombia, the connectivity and technology infrastructure make it a great destination for this type of projects. According to the Colombia's National Administrative Department of Statistics, that the name is DANI, the technology sector represents approximately $10 billion in annual revenues, generates over 370,000 job positions. Additionally, Colombia has 5 business centers with over 1 million inhabitants, and they are Bogotá, Medellín, Cali, Barranquilla, and Cartagena, which have developed a robust business network that supports the creation of new business, ensuring not only the supply of chain, but also the possibility of finding allies, clients, and network for business development. These were the general benefits. And in terms of the technological landscape in Colombia, according to the figure from the Ministry of Information and Communication Technology, MINTIC, 1 out of every 2 citizens has access to fixed and mobile internet. Even if we're still having like batches of internet connection, it's like a very good percentage of people that have access to internet.
So I want to jump in here, Andrea, because that's great information, and I think we'll be asking you some point questions around some of those thought process that you're sharing with us. Lovely, and I think I'm not sure how many of us knew all of this information that you're sharing, but I think this is powerful for you to be sharing with us. But I wanna jump to Angela, who is based in Peru. And you mentioned that Peru is a neighboring country to Colombia, which let me
Ricardo, you're on mute.
sorry, I just tried to mute someone. I hear someone speaking. I was trying to mute someone. I think I muted myself. But we wanted to jump to Angela, who is based in Peru, and like Andrea said earlier, Peru is is a neighboring country to Colombia. And so Angela, would love to hear from you. You are in Arequipa, and I'm not sure how many folks are familiar with Arequipa or been there. When I heard Arequipa, I thought of arequipe, which is the food that I like to eat when I'm in Colombia. Two different things. So we're not talking about the same thing. But Angela, please tell us about yourself and give us your outlook on the Peru environment.
Sure. Thanks, Ricardo. Thanks for the introduction. As Ricardo said, I am from Peru. I am based in a city on the south of Peru called Arequipa. And I am, as well as Andrea, a lawyer in Peru. I have my main experiences in consumer protection, intellectual property, competition law, personal data protection and privacy, and also in corporate law. I currently am a legal coordinator in privacy technology and competition in a consulting firm in Peru called New Oaks Legal and Digital. In this consulting firm, we are very invested in working with entrepreneurship. So that's my main interest, in being able to share with you my experiences and my approaches to this environment in my country. So to give you some information about Peru and this environment, I want to begin with a great statistic information that is Bloomberg has given Peru the first place in terms of economic stability in the year of 2022 in relation to the performance of other countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. So I think it's very safe to say that we have a great environment for entrepreneurship and also great investment opportunities for national and foreigners that want to invest in our country. In the past few months, our Ministry of Economy and Finance has forecasted that Peruvian economy is going to be growing in a 2.5% by the end of this year. So we have great expectations of growth as well. I wanted to tell you a little bit about how our economy is composed. We are mainly based on exportations that of primary supply, such as mining. We have very important mining companies in our country, in copper and also in gold. But we are also very important in agro export. So this is a very important space for investment. This has been also increased by our free trade agreement with the United States of America that was signed about 20 years ago, I believe. However, we also have a very important domestic demand that has been increased in sectors such as manufacturing, tourism, and also e-commerce. Our economy is mainly based of small business that we call MIPES. Around 99% of the businesses in Peru are MIPES. And an important fact here is that more than half of these businesses are not formal companies. That's one of our biggest issues in our regulatory policies in Peru. Many of these businesses are not legally registered and either comply with tax or labor legislations. But our government has been increasing its work to enforce this formalization of businesses. But this is one of the main reasons why people sometimes associate Peruvians with entrepreneurships, because it's been said that 7 out of 10 people in Peru have their own businesses. I wanted also to tell you a little bit about our growth since the pandemic. The pandemic was very hard on Peruvian businesses, but I wanted to share with you that in spite the health and political complications our country had to overcome over this last few years, our government had very good policies to encourage citizens to keep consuming, using some sort of bonification to increase the public spend, and also helped a lot of struggling businesses by giving them some loans without interests, so they could keep operating and giving jobs to Peruvian people and sustaining their operations. So I think that nowadays, in 2023, we have great expectations of growth and stability that create the appropriate environment to invest and to create new companies and make Peru a great place to be able to make to establish a company and make a business.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angela. I appreciate that good information on Peru. We do have some other panelists that I want to introduce. Abdul Mohammed, who is actually based in Honduras. I'm not sure how many of you would have actually thought or perhaps imagined an African American or an American brother who actually lives in Honduras with his family, and I'd love to hear from him. Just a reminder, we want to do this in 3-minute stops at best before we start posing questions to each of our panelists. Abdul, my brother, please tell us about you and what's happening on your end.
Thank you so much, Ricardo. I appreciate the warm welcome. I'm excited to be here with all of you guys, and thank you for inviting me. And Atlanta Black Chamber putting this on, super impactful, and definitely something that I'm excited about. I've always dreamt of being an international. I am the founder and Chief Growth Officer for MDM Ventures, and have had the pleasure of knowing Ricardo and working with Ricardo and seeing his leadership in the Caribbean and in Latin America for years now, and just really, appreciate what he's been doing and opening eyes to the many opportunities that are there. I am here in Honduras, and the place that I actually reside in and have set up as my base camp is referred to as Tela Atlantida. And Tela Atlantida is on the coastal area, the North Coast. It is a beautiful, beautiful area. And in the particular town and interest that I work with is looking at opportunities in travel and tourism, in particular around health and wellness, ecotourism, training small businesses and entrepreneurs. My business is focused on helping entrepreneurs and small businesses grow more profitably, in particular those businesses who are up to having a positive impact on the planet. And so we focus on health and wellness, travel and tourism, entertainment, technology, and finance. And we really are excited about the opportunities. I have been welcomed with open arms to the young entrepreneurs that are in this area. So I will kind of focus my conversation around the place and space that I know. Honduras is a big, huge country. And, so I'm just going to really target my conversations around my entrepreneurial experience over the last 6 months, and really focusing on the areas that we're trying to develop. And our focus, where we're seeing great opportunity, is in travel and tourism, in particular around health and wellness, and looking at people in America and other countries that are seeking respite. There's a lot of things going on with mental health and also anxiety, and really the challenges that business has brought due to decentralization and COVID, et cetera. And so people are dealing with these things. So both individuals and businesses are very much interested in ways and places to send their individuals to really have holistic health. And so huge opportunity in that space. There's a lot of beautiful, pristine beaches here. There's a lot of growth and development. So there's opportunity in real estate investing, real estate development. Construction in particular is a big area of growth. And, we really have been successful at making partnerships with local area people in Tela Atlantida that are excited. They're excited, open, and working with the chamber to provide training for small businesses so that we can expose them to marketing. We can expose them to growth opportunities beyond just the central area. Some of the challenges we face have to deal with sort of mindset and newness of it. When there's old money and people who have controlled certain things for a long time, they like it their way. And sometimes it's difficult to sort of open up, especially someone who's not from that area. And so, as in any business, there's some politicking that needs to happen. There's some advocacy that needs to take place. But there certainly are opportunities to really embrace. And as far as the process is of setting up business, so far, based on working with here, it seems to be a fairly easy process to get into. And I know we have 3 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up there.
Yes.
Lots of stuff to talk about and unpack, and looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Abdullah. We'll pose that question to you shortly about sort of your thoughts on process of getting set up here. Glad to hear from you. We'll go now to Kedar. Kedar Whittley is actually a member of ABC. So I'm always interested in talking to people who look like us, who understand our culture, who are us. And Kedar represents the great city of Atlanta, if you may, as an entrepreneur. He's been doing some amazing things, and I thought you should hear from him around his interest internationally. So Kedar, if you don't mind unmuting, tell us a little about yourself and give us your perspective what you're doing in Latin America.
Hey, what's going on? My name is Kedar Whittle, born and raised in Atlanta. Just moved back about 7 years ago, started a substitute teacher staffing agency. We are extremely blessed that we started with 4 schools. Now we service over 125 schools throughout the metro Atlanta. We are developing our own app, which Ricardo's company is actually doing for us so that we can expand across state lines. We have an opportunity to gain 2,000 more substitute teachers. We just don't have the bandwidth to call them in the United States. So we have set up shop in Cali, Colombia, to establish a call center to recruit substitute teachers here in the United States. And I've been going out to Cali a couple of times, and I was thinking, like, if I'm doing this for my company, we could do this for other companies. So since then, other business opportunities have come about because of just going back and forth and being in that environment of growth. I look forward to this conversation. I think I bring a current conversation and reality of transitioning business from here in the States to Latin America. Foreign, I'm gonna say foreign, because if you don't know Spanish, bro, you better find somebody that you can go to the chamber with so they can explain to you what you're about to sign. So I bring that approach to this conversation. So I look forward to continuing to speak with everyone today.
Awesome. Thank you. And I love Kedar's perspective because he's an entrepreneur like me. And I remember those days when I initially started visiting Colombia and just kind of having to deal with the difference in culture and so forth and so on. Usually I get the expression, eres muy alto. I'm usually the tallest one in the groups because you stand out sometimes like a sore thumb, but it's okay because Colombians are absolutely loving and welcoming people. You have to be prepared to sit out front in the porch on the chairs on the evening and drinking cerveza or drinking Corona and having, just perro caliente and so forth and so on. So it's such an amazing space to be. But I also want to hear from other folks who are in other parts of Latin America. Diego, I know Diego is in Miami, but Diego has an extensive experience and background across the entire Latin America region, from Mexico to Brazil. And Diego, I'd love to hand over to you to introduce yourself and talk to us a little about that Latin America landscape. Let's do it in 3 minutes and we'll pose some questions thereafter.
Sure, Ricardo. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here this morning with all of you. As Ricardo mentioned, I was born and raised in Bogota, Colombia, but I have been based in Miami since 2013. I'm already a Floridian. I grew up in a very cold city in Bogota, and now I enjoy the beach, the weather that we have in Miami. So I'm very blessed to be here with you and being part of this distinguished panel. It's amazing for me. So a little bit about my company and about myself. I lead the logistics and industrial division in America's Market Intelligence. We are a consulting company, to put it in simple terms, that supports decision makers when they need to understand a country in Latin America or in a specific industry and a specific area of business and opportunity that you may be considered. We support international companies looking to expand into Latin America, and we provide clarity. So we offer reports that are tailor-made for investors and multinational companies that are interested into better understanding the region. So that's the perspective that I bring today to this conversation, because I have been doing research for the past 12 years in Latin America, and I have conducted research from Mexico to Argentina, including very small countries, Suriname, Guyana, in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Haiti. So I have a very extensive experience, and I want to bring that knowledge to the table, because my ultimate goal in life is to support Latin America to grow, to bring to bring wealth and riches to the region, and to help SMEs in Latin America to connect with SMEs and multinational companies in the US and globally. So that's what I do, and that's what I'm here to bring that clarity to all of you. So happy to answer your questions. And just to give the quick elevator speech about my outlook in terms of what's to come in 2023 in Latin America, just in 30 seconds. Basically, I'm sure that you have heard about the global economic slowdown that we're facing this year because of the high inflation and high interest rates that central banks have pursued during the past year. So that is also happening in Latin America. We're experiencing Latin America inflation rates above 12%, 14% in some countries like Colombia. In Argentina, we could speak inflation around 90%. So we are experiencing the same situation in Latin America. And interest rates, if you consider that interest rates in the US are high at around 5.2%, well, in Brazil is 13.7%, the interest rate right now. So a credit card, if you have credit card debt in Brazil, you're probably paying around 45-50% interest rate a year. So that's the difference that you see in some countries in terms of interest rates. And just to stop here, I want to mention that there are plenty of opportunities in Latin America if you're considering in terms of exporting your goods or your services, but there are also a lot of opportunities, as Kedar mentioned, in terms of finding talent, finding really good developers, customer service. There's a lot of talent in Latin America, and the labor rates, the wages that are paid in Latin America in some countries could be 1/3, 1/4 of what you paid in the US. So plenty of opportunities, and I'm happy to be here this morning. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Diego. We certainly appreciate that. I know some folks are just joining in, and you might wonder where you are. We don't have the American flag posted in the webinar, but we do have Lauren. You're still in America. You are with the Atlanta Black Chamber, and I do have my teammate Lauren, who will welcome you again, just in case you missed that initial welcome. Lauren.
Okay, buenos días otra vez a todos. That is good morning again, everyone. I am Lauren Levin, sponsorship chair for the Global Opportunities Committee. Listen, I just wanted to come on really quick and tell you guys you are in the right place. I don't know if you caught this or not, but we have an amazing panel here for you today to really talk about the opportunities that are right here in your face for Latin America. I need you guys to make sure you are tuned in and catch all the nuggets that we are about to share with you on this panel, because we are about to deep dive in. So just a quick little bit of housekeeping. I know some of you were asking if this recording will be available. If you are a member of the Atlanta Black Chambers, yes, in our members only group, you will have access to this recording. However, if you're not a member of the chambers, and you absolutely should be, you need to make sure that you become a member of the chamber so you can get access to this recording, and you need to get all of the information of all of our amazing panelists that we have here with us today. So make sure you click on the link in the chat to be able to see what it is that the Atlanta Black Chambers has to offer. If you are a small Black-owned business and you want to grow your business and sustain it, not only here in the United States, but across the globe, then the Atlanta Black Chambers is the place that you need to be. You click on that link and it's going to tell you all of the information you need to know about the chambers. Additionally, there are several of us who are in the chat and we are working it to make sure that you guys get your questions answered. Feel free to drop your contact information in the chat, as well as any questions you may have, and we'll do our very best to get those answered for you. Okay, and Ricardo, turning it back over to you.
Thank you, Lauren. Awesome. Camilo is up next, and Camilo is a gentleman that I have a lot of respect for. He's very, very well knowledgeable around several different sectors related to Colombia. And so, Camilo, I'd love to give you the mic to introduce yourself and talk to us a little about your take on opportunities in your region.
Yeah, thanks, Ricardo, for the invite. And as I listened to the other panelists introduce themselves, I couldn't help but, kind of connect the things that they were saying with the things that I do. I'm an independent consultant, so I'm here to connect the dots. So I've mostly focused on the services of trade internationally. So I'm here to be part of this conversation, to help us as much as I can. I'm mostly focused on, customer service solutions, IT staffing, IT development, as far as, video game production, audiovisual production, which I know is Georgia and Atlanta is very famous for. So I've actually had a chance to visit Atlanta and visit some of these studios just to see how amazing, the amazing things that are happening in the city. So, I'm here to share my knowledge, to connect afterwards, very much looking forward to that. I've been in the industry for more than 10 years. So, I got a lot of things to say about Colombia, how it connects between, the talent and how, these amazing things happen, outsourcing, bringing talent to the US, helping US companies arrive in Colombia. It's also, within my playing field. So, happy to be here. Thank you so much for the other panelists also to be here, and all these wonderful people that are, connected. And then, looking forward to, to your questions and to help you. Like I said, afterwards, we'll be, quite excited to see what happens afterwards. Thanks, Ricardo.
Thank you. So it definitely sounds like you're in Colombia, you get access to all of Latin America or all of South America, and that's an amazing opportunity. So you certainly want to think about that as an entrepreneur. I did want to recognize Dr. Melita Barro, who is in Panama, actually. I don't know, Doc, if you can hear me. Just like you to unmute for a minute, just to tell us a little about yourself and Panama. We only have 2 minutes, Doc, and then we're going to be posing some questions to you after. So if you don't mind, just kind of sharing with us, Panama is such an important connector in the entire Americas community, the canal. A lot of us wouldn't have what we have if it hadn't been for the Panama Canal and the expansion of the Panama Canal. And that's where Dr. Melita Barro is, and she's very rooted in the African community in the region. So Doc, good morning, and tell us a little about who you are, and give us your perspective on opportunities out there in Panama and the region.
Of course. Well, Panama, I have a Chamber of Commerce. It's called the 6th Region Global Chamber of Commerce, and we connect Africa and the African diaspora in the world. Actually, what is happening is oftentimes we want to come into the African community to do business, but unfortunately, it's very difficult to make contact sometimes. So what the 6th region does is that we come in and we connect. Right now, I noticed a couple of people are speaking about Colombia. And right now, I am working diligently in Colombia regarding connecting Colombia with Africa. I know Colombia needs gas, and I made the connections with Ghana and Colombia a couple of days ago. Of course, Ghana has gas. The Panama Canal and the free zone, I would talk more about the free zone because the free zone is a section that we don't talk often. We mentioned the Panama Canal. And for those of you that are present, the free zone is where we are inviting Africans and the world, of course, to come in and come in and set up business there. Why? Because oftentimes you want to ship products from Africa or from other regions, but you can bring your products on the free zone and reship your products from that point. There are great incentives. I want you guys to go online and put in there the Colon free zone, and you will see all the opportunities there that we have here in Panama. I want to go back into exactly how our business clients are benefiting, and they're benefiting because of the work that we're doing, because we're not just dealing with Africans and Latinos, we're dealing also with the indigenous people on the land, the indigenous people here in Panama and the world. I think it's important to know that we were once partners. We used to do, Africa used to do business with indigenous people, and we are bringing that back again. We are connecting that community with Africans. Now in Panama also, I want you to know that in case that you need more information, you can reach us at our website, and that's 6thrcc.org. And the reason I'm telling you is because there's a lot of us don't have any information on the free zone. One thing I discovered also, Ricardo, is that Colombia has a lot of opportunities. They have a lot of products. And right now we're making that connection with the Congo and Colombia, because Colombia has so many things that the Congo doesn't have. I'll be honest with you, the Congo don't have anything. Many of us think that, you know, whatever they have, they own, but the Africans don't really own anything. So we're trying to make that change, because we're also going to be dealing with the Congo in providing information, products that they need. So I just want everyone there to know they need everything. So I'm just gonna leave it right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Hopefully, we already have questions in the chat that have been posed about Panama and to you, and hopefully you can stick around with us to address that. But certainly ensure that your contacts is in the chat, and we'll share your contacts with everyone, panelists, so that you can have access to individuals who may be interested in asking questions or reaching out to you thereafter. One quick thing I'd like to say, I want a big shout out to Dr. Dawn Sizemore, who is a part of our leadership at the GOC. She's in charge of the numbers, and she measures the KPI, she measures the numbers, and she'll be sharing with you a link soon in the chat later for you to complete that survey for us to tell us how we're doing. It's very important as we bring these programs into you to hear back from you. What would you want to know as we go across the different regions around the world, find opportunities where Africans, African Americans, Black-owned businesses can be a part of those opportunities through trade, investments, and partnership. And so please be on the lookout for that. Now that we've heard from all of our panelists, and we've gotten some context around the different parts of the region that we can do things, I want to jump back to the legal piece, because when you enter into these territories, you can't just walk in there and just do whatever you please. So you really need to have, there needs to be a way to do this. There's a method usually to doing that, unless you want to be locked up. We don't want that for entrepreneurs. So I want to talk to Andrea and Angela, because these are two of our legal experts as on the call. Andrea, for you, talk to me a little about, in a minute or so, just tell me a little about that sort of legal structure. You indicated earlier that there's no difference between some local, national and international, and you also talk a little about IP. But for someone who is on this call, is interested in making their first move, what are the advice you'll actually have for them? Do they need to be consulting with a lawyer? Do they need to walk in with their friends? A lot of us have friends. A lot of us know people. Do we need to do that? Please talk to us a little about the legal requirements of the structure for us to engage in business in Colombia, and then maybe we can we'll get Angela to answer that for Peru as well.
Yeah, thank you, Ricardo. Well, you can with your friends and meet the country, but in order to create a company here in Colombia, you need to have an advice of a lawyer. And it's not my first advice that you need to know the legal frame of Colombia, because now we have a lot of changes here, especially in the political part or in the government. So you need to be sure that you are complying with with our laws here in Colombia. Additionally, you need to define if you want to have like a company here in Colombia, or just a representation here in Colombia. It depends of what the sector of you're gonna invest, but it is necessary to register the company here in the chambers of commerce where the commercial activity will take place. Register with the National Tax and Customer Director, that is the DIAN. And depending on the type of the business and the location, you may need to obtain like a specific license. Some of the products and services may require like compliance specific technical requirements. And if you're like trading data of like personal data, you need to comply with the personal data protection law here in Colombia.
Awesome. And so in short terms, you need to talk to an attorney. You need to have access to an attorney that you can ask these questions, because there are many of them. And Angela, in 30 seconds or so, can you tell me, is this the same kind of thing for Peru as well? How different it is, or is there anything you'd like to add to what was already said?
Totally agreeing with Andrea. In Peru, you're going to also need the legal advice of an attorney. First, to determine the legal structure that you're going to apply for your company, the kind of legal entity you're going to be establishing. In Peru, we have anonymous societies, but we also have other kind of societies like individual societies. So it depends on how you're going to want to structure the shareholder agreement. So the procedure is quite simple. If you are in Peru, you can do it in about 10 to 15 days. Maybe it can be a little bit more complicated if you want to establish the company without being physically in Peru. There are some solutions that our government has developed for digital establishment of companies, but they are not quite developed yet. You are going to need some digital signature that it has a lot of requirements in Peruvian relation. And also you're going to need a lawyer to to know other sort of regulation, like tax payments. In Peru, we have taxes for value added that are around 18%, and also for companies' income are around 30%. But it's going to be changing considering the size of the company.
Right.
And you also have to be able to know about the labor benefits that you're going to have to recognize to your employees that
Right.
have a big impact on companies' budgets.
Right.
In Peru, we have many rights that are recognized to employees, such as 30 calendar day vacations a year that have to be paid by the company, or also some gratuities, two gratuities a year that are like monthly payments that you are going to have to assume. So the advice of a lawyer is very important, to be able to know how much is the cost of starting a formal company in Peru.
Thank you. That's awesome. And if you have any resources, Andrea, Angela, on finding legal counsel in your area, if you can share those, that would be helpful. I wanted to ask Diego this, because Diego, you are familiar with Mexico as well, and we haven't talked much about Mexico just now, but you mentioned something about Brazil earlier in terms of their interest rate. Is this the same kind of thing that you're seeing in 30 seconds or so? Can you tell me a little bit about your perspective on that legal structure across the different areas that were mentioned, the different regions that were mentioned?
Sure, sure. So when companies ask me about operating in Latin America or expanding their operations in the region, typically the first question they ask before the legal structure is how big the market is. That's probably the main question they ask when they're trying to export to Mexico or to Colombia, to Peru, Chile, to any country in Latin America. How big the market is, that's the main question. But what I always answer is, it doesn't matter how big the market is, because if the market is 1 million, 10 million, $100 million, or $1 billion, it doesn't matter if you cannot compete in terms of pricing, because let's remember that Latin America is a very price sensitive region. So if your price is competitive enough in Latin America, if you're exporting, well, that's the main thing that you need to consider before even considering legal structure. So it's a step process that I recommend for all of you that are here in terms of exporting your products or your services to Latin America, is do some research about how competitive your price is, and then identify where you want to focus, because Latin America has 38 countries if we include the islands. So you need to focus on one or two countries, and within that country, what is the target segment that is a potential customer for you, even before you start considering the legal structure, because the legal structure, I would say, is for large multinationals that are looking to operate big companies in Latin America, hire employees, and have a robust and solid operation in the country. So depending on your needs, I would say start looking into your competitiveness and see what countries offer the best opportunity.
Thank you. And that's a great point. And I want to ask you, Kedar, because Diego just referred to size. Like, if you have a very big company, then obviously you definitely have to go through legal structure. But you are not running an Apple today, and I'm sure that's the dream of most of us on the call. Would love for our company to be as big as an Apple or big as a Microsoft. I'd love to hear your thought process of sort of how did you do it, and what channel, essentially, what's your process, if you may, on you're in Atlanta, you thought about, hey, here's an opportunity for you to get access to talent to be able to then get some stuff done. You're not necessarily selling a product inside Colombia, if I'm not mistaken, but you're hiring talent in Colombia. And talk to me a little about that legal structure, or that channel you went through to establish that.
Well, I don't know if I should really speak on it from a legal perspective because I don't know if I did everything legally correct. But I do know that because I am not directly selling a product or have a product in Colombia, and we are kind of below that 6 employee mark, there were some things we didn't necessarily have to do or have to report. Now, I had two options. I knew a company in which I could go through them full, like certified legal route, or I could listen to the advice of my friend. I listened to the advice of my friend while I learned what is the best route for future for us. I mean, we're small enough now in which we can not operate under the radar from that perspective, but we're not making a bunch of noise. We're not operating in Zona America, so there's nothing there. We're operating out of a shared workspace, so there's those regulatories there. But I'm the type entrepreneur that want to actually learn the process so we can see what's the best route for us to go as we expand, because the expansion opportunity is crazy. That's the exciting part. And I want to have a firsthand idea on how to best do that.
Awesome, awesome. And this is the kind of entrepreneur you are. And if you are like Kedar, that you want to experience this yourself, you want to understand this. So you have options, right? And we always say, if you don't know, you talk to some attorneys. You may not have friends like Kedar, right? But you certainly need to go the route that works best for you, obviously, depending on how you want to set up. So I think that was a great takeaway. Milou, you had mentioned earlier about just kind of bringing the Afro community together in Argentina. You mentioned how sporadic their involvements are, and I think that's a great opportunity for even our members who are listening. What are your thoughts, and essentially sort of how do we actually do that? Because that feels like partnership, which is a big part of our mantra here in the chamber. How do we partner with the communities that needs to come together? Here in Atlanta, like you mentioned, you've not seen this kind of comadre, you've not seen this kind of community building or design in Argentina for Afro-Argentinians, if I may. What are your thoughts, and how do you think we should do this in 60 seconds or less?
Well, as I've mentioned, there are Afro Latins that come to Argentina looking for freedom, looking for free public universities, schools, and health. Mainly, they come from Haiti, Senegal, Ivory Coast, yes, also from Venezuela and Colombia, yes, and they came a few years before, looking for that freedom. Argentina was in a better situation, and because of the lack of parity that we have here regarding the dollar, the American dollar, it is not the best country to come nowadays looking for good opportunities. Some migrants some time ago, they came and could gain some dollars, and they gave it back to their families in Peru, in Bolivia, in Paraguay, and so on. Then we have people from Haiti, for example, that came after the earthquake, for example, or 6-7 years ago. They were like 27,000. Now they are 9,000 because they are going back to their country or some other countries in the continent. And as you mentioned, they are not well organized. They don't have this identity of being Black or being having this possibility of the power of being a greater community. So they just group themselves because they come from the same country, not because of the roots or color or cultures. And this is a problem. There are some religious organizations that are working really hard here in Argentina. I've shared some links in the chat for you to be able to see what they are doing. I was a mentor and I was helping there, volunteer with one specific organization that is related to the religious Catholic world, and they work particularly with vulnerable women, migrants from all over the continent. Some of them are abused, they've been raped, they are coming out of terrorism or non-democratic systems around the continent. So when they come to Argentina, they need everything. So there's a big opportunity there to help to help them get organized in a better way to succeed. And even if they come here to look for freedom, because we are a free country, they still feel that there is a lot of discrimination. And I think that's a problem. Abroad, we don't speak about that a lot, at least here in Argentina.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a great point. Abdul, do you see this kind of thing happening? I know you're about health and wellness, you're about travel tourism, and as you go through the ins and outs of Honduras where you are at, what are you actually witnessing around the opportunity for partnering? Do you actually get any kind of discriminatory sort of vibe, if you may? I'd like for you to talk a little about that, and what are you seeing in terms of partnering opportunity?
So that's a great question. And, you know, just I feel like I'm just used to discrimination, just being born in America, being Black with a name like Abdul Muhammad. So it's for me, it's something that I'm very much used to. But at the same time, as I've been successful in America, there are people who will work with you and people who don't. And my energy in spaces, I look at the positive elements of it. There are certainly some cultural nuance to it. The Garifuna people, I know we've spoken a couple of times, especially Dr. Maharo, she spoke about the indigenous people, and that's very much a part of the makeup of the people here in Tela Atlantida. In particular, you've got sort of the indigenous people, and then you've got Honduran people, and sometimes they don't necessarily mesh and blend so well. And I'm finding that more from the older school, the older generation. The newer generations are, you know, similar to America in a sense that, you know, there's a little more diversity you see hanging out, etc. But there are some very segregated old minds that really think that, you know, it's difficult, and they do see that discrimination. For me, it's been a sense where when they, you know, get a sense of who I am and, oh, he's American, it could shift to a positive way, because the general sense is that Americans here have money and have provide opportunity. Whether you're looking at they looked at in the Garifuna or Black indigenous community, that's the name of the Black indigenous community here, Garifunas, or by the traditional Honduran, the Spain here. And so once it's sort of identified as American, you know, there's just different panache to it and a different way that that's looked at. You find that often where there's heavier discrimination against people who may be from an island or maybe from Africa versus if you're American and you're Black. And so these sort of things are, I found there in America, and it is par for the course. Same stuff happening in in Honduras, and as I travel in Mexico and Colombia, etc. And again, I just try to focus on the vibration of positive energy, and that's typically what I have found is what's attracted toward me.
Awesome. I think that's an important ingredient as you travel these different communities. You've got to have that positive mindset, and you've got to have that positive vibration, which I really am proud of the way that Abdul absorbs that in his everyday life. Camilo, I want to switch subject and talk about trade a little bit, because a lot of our entrepreneurs on here, they are interested in how do we actually get a product into Colombia? How do we get a product out of Colombia? And you are an expert around helping businesses to do that. So I want to talk a little about what are some of the top things that are trading right now, and how do we actually go about this process?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things happening right now between Colombia and the US. bilateral trading is actually an ongoing thing, and it's been like that for a good number of years. My focus is mainly trading services, but I can also say that from the goods side, whichever entrepreneurs are here connected that are in trading goods, I think this is also a good opportunity for agro-industrial manufacturing, I think agricultural goods manufacturing actually presented the very exciting trading opportunities. And for the services area, to answer your questions, the best thing to do is just to find a local partner. I mean, Keter said, I listened to my friend, and it's wonderful that he ran into a good advice from a friend. But sometimes what I like to advise is that you gotta learn how the locals play, and then you just learn to play how the locals do it, and then you will get things the right way, and then whether it's your goods or services, it's actually a good advice is just to come into Colombia and learn how the Colombians do business, and it won't take you long to learn it. Very opening, very welcoming, and then you will learn the ABCs on how to do business in Colombia. That applies to trades and for services and goods as well. And then for I work with a lot of companies that actually set up operations in Colombia, and eventually they learn how the ecosystem works, and then they become exporters. So whatever they do in Colombia, it becomes an exporting good or an exporting services. And I think that's, Ricardo, you've seen it, firsthand how that works. The Colombian talent is actually quite good, good education level, good ranking. They're actually very committed to work, very good, excellent work ethics. And the American companies love that. So once they learn and they understand the value of the Colombian talent, they see the opportunities of exporting this service and this talent. That's actually what happens afterwards. When you set up an operation in Colombia, or you do business with a Colombian, you see, you start seeing more and more bigger opportunities to do business elsewhere.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I love that, because many of us here are in the service business. We provide a service, and whether you provide a service or a product, technically it's the same approach. You really want to understand how the locals work. You really want to understand the culture on the ground. And what best way to do that? To hop on a plane, go out there, right? Go out there and connect. Connect with the space. Even if you just go to some of the local cities, the local communities, find out where a lot of the action is at, and just go see for yourself. I can't explain further on how different it is than you just going there for yourself and taking advantage of connecting with the locals. When I'm in these South American countries, one of the things that pleases me as an entrepreneur is to hear native Spanish-speaking people speaking English back to me, and that makes me feel very proud. It's like, yes, I could actually hire you, because you went to university, you've got great talent, and you speak English. Oh my God, this is amazing. And that's the kind of feeling that you get when you step into these territories, because many of us here don't know a word of Spanish, maybe just hola and ciao, right? But you would be surprised when you get into these territories. One of the things you have to remember, the education system in a lot of these territories, especially for Colombia, there is a university everywhere in these big cities, lots of universities. And Andrea alluded to just how young the population is out there. In Brazil, the same thing as well. And they have intentionally been educating themselves, and English is a big part of that. And so if you really want to connect with the talent, you certainly have no issue finding bilingual people. 40% of the population here in the US is Hispanic. And so that's also adding a lot of value to, obviously you may have clients who are from these regions. And if you can provide the kind of talent that allows for that bilingual conversation, I think that would be very, very helpful. And in speaking of talent, I wanted to ask you, Diego, you talked about market research as a very, very important piece. And I'm sure as you do your research, you're going to find out about the talent. Where are you seeing the talent? What kind of talent are you seeing that is available in these regions?
Definitely. So let me share briefly the experience that we have in America's Market Intelligence, because the practice leaders are based actually in Miami and in the US, But in Latin America, we have a network of consultants that can be over 200. So we have 200 experts in different fields. It could be in e-commerce, in logistics, in lubricants, in industrial equipment. And these are local consultants. So we have a really good team in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. I've been really amazed in terms of how talented they are, in terms of their English proficiency, in terms of how skilled they are. So our network of analysts and staff is spread all over 10 countries in Latin America. So we have a team in Mexico, we have a team in Sao Paulo, we have a team in Buenos Aires, in Santiago. So we have been very fortunate to find really good and talented individuals that are that their wages again are probably 1/3, 1/4, 1/5 of what you could pay here to a professional in the US. And that's because of the cost of life that you have in Latin America. It's not because we're being unfair, but it's because US dollars are they give you a lot of purchasing power in Latin America. So just so you have an idea, an analyst, I would say mid to senior analyst, could be earning $2,000 in Colombia or in Peru in my company. But if I were to pay that in the US, I would have to pay 10,000. So that's the disparity that I'm talking about, but it's just because of the cost of life. And we have a lot of good talent in Latin America. And I typically work with people that have over 20, 25 years of experience in an industry, because I like to work with people that are doing business daily in a specific industry. So I like to work with salespeople. I like to work with retirees, which have a lot of free time and they have a lot of knowledge about the country, about their own industry. So I'd really recommend that. Just think about and reach out to people, as Ricardo was saying. People in Latin America, probably I would say 60-70% of them are English proficient. So reach out to people in LinkedIn, reach out to people in social networks and connect with them, because you would be surprised in terms of how talented they are, how cheap they are, and the opportunities that you would find. But if I may, just to share one risk that is linked to the legal aspect, and this is part of an experience that I had recently, and I think that Angela and Andrea are really good advisors here, because when you think about the contract enforcement and law enforcement in Latin America, it's very, very different to what you have here in the States. So that's a key component that you need to consider when you're dealing with companies or individuals in Latin America, is how likely is to enforce the contracts that you are signing. Because at the end of the day, I had a really bad experience in Latin America, in a country that I won't mention, but I was working with a consultant, and we had a contract signed, and he simply vanished. He ghosted me. I had to scramble to complete my project. He just vanished, and we had a contract, and to enforce the contract was really, really difficult. So having the advice in those type of situations from legal experts, it's really, really critical. That's where I think Andrea and Angela bring a lot of expertise into this conversation. So I like to stop there and give the opportunity for other panelists.
Thank you. We'll talk about risk in a second. Thank you so much for that, Diego. If you have a question, please make sure you put it in the chat. We're going to be taking those questions shortly. But this is spontaneous. I want to have a quick lighting round with our panelists. And this is kind of to lighten the mood, because we're going to talk about risk. And a lot of people don't like to talk about risk. So we're going to talk about risk right after. So when you go to your city or wherever you are, I want to ask you, and just one answer as quickly as you can. What's the food that I must try, and where should I go? So two things. What's the food I must try when I come to your country, or when I go to a specific country, and where should I go see? Abdul.
All right. So the food that you should try when you're here, I'm going to give two, because I'm eating both of them a lot right now. One is the baleada, And it's the traditional sort of Honduran. I eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's awesome. It's great. And then I'm gonna go more for the garifuna. It's a seafood, my favorite seafood soup, and it's called hurutu. So baleadas and hurutu, those are the two foods. And then the places that you should visit, of course, Tela Atlantida, straight up. And then you know, there's some beautiful islands off the coast. Utila, Roatan is one of the most popular ones everybody always speaks about, but I actually enjoy Utila. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit more less touristy yet, kind of the upcomer. I like, you know, looking at those who upcoming and the growth. So those are the areas that I would recommend here.
Awesome, awesome. I like that. So please write those names in the chat, because I'm sure most persons probably would forget. Milu, what's your recommended dish and place?
Well, Argentina is well known for its meat, so I would definitely recommend a good parrillada. Yes, a good barbecue, the Argentinian style. It's not
Right.
red meat. The good point is more cooked. Then I would also recommend empanadas. And regarding tourism, Argentina is beautiful, very diverse. From north to south, east and west, we have the waterfall, the Iguazu waterfall. We have whale watching tours in September, October in some part of Patagonia. All the Patagonia is wonderful, and there you can also have what we call Cordero Patagónico, which is the lamb that you can eat there. We have the vineyards, so you can have delicious Malbec, but also some other varieties of wine. In Mendoza, in San Juan, in Salta, which is north of Argentina, next to Bolivia.
Awesome,
Go
awesome.
everywhere. You can go everywhere, and you will find very nice landscape and people.
Go ahead and put those in the chat, because I'm sure you're definitely going to have trips to your territory from this conversation. I'd love to also hear, Angela, what's that one dish and that one place that you must visit when you come to Peru?
In terms of food, I cannot be humble, because in Peru we have the greatest food ever, and we have regional food in different places of our country. So you have to try it all. I think I'm going to be a little bit more into regional Arequipa's food. We have food that is only from my city. Like we have a very special, like stuffed spicy pepper that is traditional from here. You have to try it. It's amazing. But you also can try regional food from the jungle or from our coast. You're going to find a lot of things, amazing things. And also in terms of drinks, you have to try pisco. Pisco is an amazing alcoholic beverage. So
Is it
Awesome.
pisco? Is it pisco from Peru or from Chile?
from Peru, of course.
Awesome. Well, Diego, since you're on mute, I know you're in Miami, but what's your favorite food that we should be eating, and where you should be going? Quickly.
Well, yeah. In Miami, I really love a place called Neverland Coffee. It's a place that you would enjoy. It has brunch. It has a mix of different foods. I really love it. It's in Aventura. But if I may, I would say that if you're in Mexico, I travel very often into Mexico. Just try Mexican tacos. Street tacos, they're the best. You can pay 3 tacos for $1, and don't worry about it. You won't end up in the toilet. They're safe. So best Mexican food that I ever tried was street tacos. So highly recommended if you're in Mexico City.
Awesome. That's amazing. Camilo, what's your take on what's to eat and where to go?
I don't know. Andrea is here with me, so she might disagree or agree with me, but there's a thing called here in Colombia is arepas. And so if you wanna, the arepas and the Colombian local soups, I don't think I've never seen any other country with such a variety of soups. And I think Colombia is one of those places where you can actually just, delight yourself with those kinds of soups. And if you were in Bogota, gosh, it's a big city. a lot of traffic. So I don't want to recommend the wrong place. You end up going there and it takes you 2 hours to get everywhere. But there is one museum here. I mean, if you are into museums or anything, the downtown in Bogota is actually quite nice. It's the Golden Museum. And the Golden Museum walks you through the history of Colombia, and it gives you an entire perspective of where we come from. So that would be my recommendation.
Awesome, awesome. So, and Andrea, I'd love to hear from you as well. I know you're in Bogota, and then we'll just go to Kedar real quick.
So in Bogota, you should try the ajiaco, but since you're going to Cali, you should try the empanadas, marranitas, and aborrajado at a place called Obelisco, and also the biche. The biche, it's a typical alcoholic beverage from the Pacific region. So you should try it and go to Petronio Festival that I think that is going to be at the same time that you were in Cali.
Awesome, awesome. Kedar, what did you have when you went out there?
Bohio, Bohio, because I eat out every night. Bohio is my favorite, and Gastroteca, my two favorite restaurants when I go to Cali. In terms of like what I order, whatever I feel like is good in the moment. And sometimes I just say, hey, surprise me. Here's what I'm in the mood for. Fix it up, and they hook it up for me.
Yeah, being open-minded. That's awesome. I just want to remind us, I did mention it earlier in the top of the call that we may extend this conversation to about 15 or so minutes earlier. So out of respect for you and your time, the recording will be available, like Lauren says, within the ABC member group. And you can download the chat if you'd like. I'm going to do some Q&A shortly, but we will be going over a little bit. So just wanted to mention that because we're coming up on the 12:30 bell. I did want to talk a little about, before we get to the Q&A, I did want to talk a little about risks. And it's going to be an open question. What are the risks that you've actually seen? Diego mentioned earlier about contracts and making sure that contracts that you sign are reviewed. Andre is actually an attorney for a company. And so, literally all the contracts that we sign in Colombia, especially software contracts, etc., she actually reviews them to make sure that if we need to go after someone, if we need to do something, then she actually can help us there, which I think is very beneficial to the business that we're in anyways. But I'd like to ask each of you in 30 seconds or less, what are your thoughts on the risks that exist in your territories? Abdul, you want to go first?
Sure. So far, I feel like the biggest risks are what we mentioned earlier, just not really knowing. And I haven't yet been able to sort of find a place to verify or authenticate who businesses really are. And, if you can indeed trust them, and the experience that Camilo had is not going to happen, right? That's number one. I think also the risk of those who you are encroaching on their territory. I'm an OG. I'm from the city. I'm from New York. You know what I'm saying? You stepping on somebody's block, there's some danger going on. So, there's that there. And when you're not from that area, at least on 147th Street, I knew who I was dealing with here. It's like, yo, you don't know. So that there's that. I think also just the mindset and really welcoming new challenge. And really just being able to navigate through the political and cultural differences that are already set up. One of the biggest challenges I found is this: you would think that the people who need the help would actually want it and embrace that and want to move. And it's been somewhat disheartening to find that they're sometimes not as motivated to get out of certain situations. And so that weighs a little heavy on my heart in that space. So to me, that, and then overall, not knowing about the government and their ability to just sort of make moves and things that I've heard in the past. Those are things that I think are risks that are inherent in what we do.
Awesome. Andrea, what are your thoughts?
Well, as I mentioned, now we are through government changes. So there is a possibility of changes that create risks in legislation and regulations that may affect the investment condition. So it is important to closely monitor any changes and adapt to the new norms and legislation here in Colombia. Additionally, I think that the Colombian market is very competitive, so it can be challenging for foreign companies to enter and establish themselves without like anyone to advise here in Colombia of how the market is, what are like the necessities of companies. And I think that those are the two like biggest risks that I can see from the legal aspect.
Awesome. Awesome. Diego?
Absolutely.
I have two here. First one that comes to mind is corruption and bribery. That is widely spread in Latin America. So you guys need to be aware of corruption because typically when you're trying to enter into some negotiations, you will be asked for briberies, you will be asked for money. So please be aware of that. That happens in any country that I have worked with. I had experienced those situations, so please be aware of that. And when you think about Latin America, yes, Latin America are 38 countries. The majority of them speak Spanish, but you also have the Caribbean, the English Caribbean speaking islands. So I think those countries that are similar in terms of English language may seem a good fit to start doing business with, but they tend to be the most challenging to penetrate because of the consolidation that exists in some industries, in some areas. If you don't know one or two key people in some countries, it would be really impossible to do business in those markets, like in the Caribbean, as I mentioned, very consolidated. So that's something that I highly recommend. Just think about where the opportunities are and determine what are the key risks that could impact your operation. What could be your three risks? So corruption. Also think about what Andrea said in terms of political risks and how regulations are changing. Latin America is now swinging to the left. We are seeing the majority of countries being led by leftist governments, and that's not because of a rise in socialism or communism, but it's because of the social disconnection that we experienced during the pandemic. So a lot of changes happening right now in that aspect also.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to be having what we call a follow-up action call, usually in our webinar programming, after presenting panelists to you and understanding the interest that you may have in the region. We do have a follow-up action call, which happens a month, exactly a month away from today. If you are interested in connecting on a deeper level to move your business forward, if you are ready, if you feel like you're ready to take the necessary steps to access opportunities in Latin America to start importing or exporting, we would like to know, we would like to hear from you. Please fill out the survey. Please let us know that in the chat as well as you leave your information. We'll send you a survey to gather that feedback so that within the next 30 days, we'll be having our panelists here to come back to speak directly to you. And I know that's just going to be a percentage of all the folks who are here, but I just wanted to make sure that we remind you and mention that, so that if you are interested in moving forward, whether it's Colombia or any other parts of the region, please let us know, because our job is to really help to connect you with the opportunities, and they'll be available to speak more intimately about your specific business, your specific interests that you have in the region. Kido, I'd love to hear from you on the risk as an entrepreneur out here in Atlanta who goes out there in Colombia, and you've already started your work. What are some of the risks that you are seeing and that you can advise us on or share with us?
Yeah, what are the biggest adjustments that was made on our end are whatever SOPs we created and developed in our head may have to be altered in reality once in Colombia. So definitely make sure you have mendable SOPs to work for the specific scenario that you're in. The second adjustment we had to make is time. Bro, we had a timeline in our head when things was going to happen, but Colombia had a different timeline for us. But I went to HBCU, so I know how things go sometimes. You got to turn in paperwork 3-4 times. You got to answer this question 3 or 4 times. And you got to make sure somebody is there to help translate the information that you told them already 3 or 4 times. So make sure you have time, like as a husband and a dad of 6, my time in Colombia, I try to go for like a week at a time. That's not enough, because what you thought you was going to do within those 5 days actually may take 10. So just really make sure you have the time to establish everything that you want to do. So those are the 2 big ones that we had to do with.
Awesome. Thank you. Angela, your thoughts on risk in Peru?
Sure. I agree a lot with Diego on this. I think in Peru, the main risk is going to be the lack of strength in some institutions. Mainly, I could say the judicial system. We have some problems with judicial enforcement of obligations, because legal processes in our judicial system can last around 10 to 15 years. So you have to be you have to take that in mind when you negotiate and go into business with a Peruvian partner. And also informality has its place in here, because you have to be able to pick alliances with companies that are very formal, because informal companies can disappear from one moment to the other, and you're not going to be able to enforce any obligation with them. Also corruption. We have had in the last few years great deal of cases that have been enforced by our authorities on corruption, with huge companies involved and presidents and all sorts of authorities. So it's something that it has been culturally assumed by my country, sadly, but you have to implement other kind of measures, like compliance systems, to be able to protect your employees and your company from this kind of requirements from authorities, from corrupt authorities.
Awesome. Thank you. Camilo?
Wait.
real quick.
Oh, one second. I forgot. Also, being with an attorney is super important, because they could tell you about the other laws that you're not thinking of, because there's 16 holidays in Colombia that we did not account for as part of our schedule of when these people were going to be working. So we had to figure out, like, how do we get around it, or can you get around it? And pretty much the answer is no. It's up to them. They have the power. So making sure you know little things like that can also help you out, because what do you do when your whole operations is not at work?
Thank you, Kidor. Camilo?
From a business perspective, I think you guys have to be aware of the market risks. Sometimes you will experience some market saturation in some sense. If you're looking for bilingual people, you gotta be aware of where to find them, how to look for them, and that's part of the market risk. Where to find the best talent. The communication piece of the risk, I think, is also very important, because I've consulted so many companies that they usually tell me A. They told me they were going to do A, but then they didn't do it as I expected. So I think there's a communication risk right there that you need to be aware of. But the more mature Colombia becomes in terms of delivering services out of Colombia, the lower the risk that is, but it's still there. So I just want to put it out there, because the communication risk is still out there. And the number 3 is the currency exchange, because I've actually experienced that with some consultants that I work with. You quote a project at a certain rate, but then when you were going to pay, at what price you close that deal, and which exchange rate is going to apply and when. And then Colombian exchange rate can actually vary throughout the year. So please be aware that you have to keep an eye on how that changes, and how that's going to affect your contracts and whatever you hire or contracted in Colombia.
Awesome. That's very important. Milu, your final take on risk?
Well, I agree with everyone. And I think that one of the main risks, or the main, is the democratic system in Argentina. And I think it's common in many countries. And we have this governance and we have elections this year. Some part of them wants to create or prefer to create this factory of poor voters, and they made all these vulnerable population depend on these social plans. So this is not the kind of wealthiness that I would like for a nation. Yes. So I think that is the main risk. On the other hand, and talking about developers and remote work and so on, the future of work is among us. It's already here, and it's global. It's not Argentinians working for Mexico or Argentinians working for US or so. It's global. It's there in the cloud, and we need more international cooperation, international laws, because there are, for example, in Argentina, and I think it's the same in other countries, most of the developers or the remote workers are out of the system, are out of the formal system. They are not working legally in Argentina. They are not gaining any money in Argentina. They are not bringing legal money to Argentina. So this is a problem. They won't have the right pension when they grow up and when they are old. So this is a problem. They have this opportunity of having their salaries or contracts in dollars, and this is a great opportunity because the other alternative is to gain, I don't know, 10 times less in Argentine pesos. But
Right.
we should see how sustainable this can be.
Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate that. I want to be a shout out to Carolina. Carolina is a good colleague of mine. She's a translator, and one of the things that we talk about is just understanding the cultural nuances and just being able to have translation. And Carolina is actually here. She had just joined us, and she shares her information in the chat. She is French Colombian, so she can do Spanish, she can do English, and she can do French, which is 3-in-1 that you end up getting. But we're out of time, and we're going to go to Q&A. You can see Carolina's information in the chat. One of the first questions that I saw coming up here, and it was probably directed to Diego, but I think Camila might be able to chime in on this as well. Sort of logistically speaking, in regards to importing and exporting coffee or cargo shipping, can you touch on sort of this logistics around importing or exporting coffee, especially dealing with Latin America, primarily Panama, if I understand the question directly?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I can answer that question. So in terms of exporting coffee out of Panama, Colombia, Brazil, those countries have really good operation in place. They have all the processes, from the distribution to the services at ports. So I wouldn't be concerned in terms of the logistics service offering that you could find in those markets, and actually setting up operation in Colombia, in that industry, or in Panama or in Brazil. You will find a lot of consolidation. So it depends on what you're thinking about, but logistics services in those countries for the agro-industrial space are really, really good. You have from the best companies operating in those markets, from Maersk, Hapag-Lloyd. You have freight forwarders very knowledgeable about exporting perishables and exporting other agricultural products. So plenty of good expertise available. And right now it's a really good time to be shipping both maritime and air freight, because rates have come down compared to last year. So last year, just to give you an idea, compared to last year, ocean rates have declined around 1,000% almost from those high peaks. So right now it's a really good time to be using maritime transport. You will find a lot of capacity available, a lot of good freight forwarders in these markets. So I wouldn't be concerned in terms of the actual logistics companies providing the services. What you need to consider is the regulatory aspects related to customs procedures, which is very tricky customs procedures in some markets are very, very challenging, like in Brazil, in Mexico. Actually, Colombia is one of the best countries along with Chile in terms of customs and the digitization of customs procedures. Peru has done a really good job also in that front. So there are a lot of free trade agreements in Latin America with the US. So Mexico with the USMCA, you have Colombia with free trade agreement, the CAFTA with Central America and Dominican Republic. Also, they have free trade agreements. So there's a lot of opportunities, and I wouldn't be concerned in terms of the logistics challenges that you would find.
Awesome. Camilo, how did travel, someone had asked about travel and how did COVID affect tourism and travel in the sector in the country? You know, would you say the economy has recovered so far? They're interested in surfing. They're interested in surfing equipments and motorbikes, and then I think the person who wants to understand sort of training and information that of this viable sector and any opportunity that might exist there, if you can speak to that.
Yeah, in regards of tourism, of course, I'm not the expert, but I actually can connect you with the experts that I'll be very happy to help you with with an initial answer on that. Colombia actually have reached a really good number of international visitors pre-pandemic. Actually, record numbers of visitors in Colombia, and then the country has actually improved infrastructure and services to actually receive more tourists. And then we're just coming back. The number of tourists are actually coming back. As a matter of fact, the US is in the #1 where we receive the most tourists, I should say, in Colombia. So, you know, we understand the American tourists, we understand, you know, the likes and what's expected and preferences. So I think that is good for the business. That's what I can say in regards to that. Like I said, we're coming back in terms of numbers. The connectivity is actually really good between Colombia. What I'm saying is, you know, the number of flights available from the US and Colombia are actually increasing. More airlines are actually signing up new routes to connect Colombia with the rest of the with the US actually, and with the rest of the Latin American. So if you follow the news, you will, you know, it's very usual that within a year you will see like 4 or 5 airlines signing up new routes and new things to connect us with the rest of the world. So I think that's a number. I would say that's a very good reason for, you know, for you not to think too much before you travel to Colombia, because it couldn't be easier as a matter of fact today. Yeah. Thank
you so much. So we're going to do one more question, and then I'll ask each of the panelists to just give your closing remark, and we'll ask Akita Patterson, one of our leaders at GOC, to just close it out with some thanks. The question is around legalities. Do you need to create a company such as an LLC or a corp or a partnership as a non-citizen? And you know, do you need license for that to do business in Colombia and maybe in other territories? I don't know if Andrea or Angela, you can kind of respond to that. Do you actually need to create these companies as a non-citizen?
In Colombia, it depends of the certain activities or sectors, and also depending on how big the business is and the profits. So it depends of what activities are you gonna develop in the country. Maybe you need to establish a legal entity or a company. And it depends also if you need a specific license. For example, in financial services and telecommunication, you need to have a specific license to be in Colombia. So it depends, but generally you need to establish a company here in Colombia.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I will ask each of you to share your closing remarks. And there is one other question I want to infuse in your closing remarks. What business sector are emerging in your area that you say is a good area to invest in? So we'll start with I suppose we can start with Kedar to share your closing remarks, but see if you can answer this question around what's a good area to invest in or is emerging in your area. That would be fantastic. Kedar.
Yeah, absolutely. First is as a member and just Just honored to be here, always representing for ABC and representing for Atlanta. I just thank you for the opportunity. In closing, Latin America opportunities are amazing, specifically Colombia. There is an opportunity to get amazing talent for a third of the cost. Just got to do the backdrop and the homework and make sure everything is legally structured and put together. Call center agents have grown from what I have heard over the last several years. You're seeing a lot of people that are coming back home. There was actually opportunity for us to go into Mexico because a lot of people from California was going down to the Baja, and a lot of call centers were opening up. But embracing the culture, not relying on the United States to be your go-to for the next 30 years, and just being open to the opportunities that are out there. Thank y'all. And hit me up at Keedar, Keedar. And if you know anybody in the Atlanta area, because everybody got a cousin that's trying to move to the A, see if they got a job. And if they don't, they can substitute teach 1 day a week, 3 days a week, 5 days a week. We need it.
We're going to charge you for that promo, but you're a good guy. So, no worries there. Milu, would you like to close out? Just give us your closing remarks quickly.
Well, there is great opportunity in everything that has to do with startup, tech, world, talents, developers, and cooperation with that. Also in the energy sector, lithium, for example, in the north of Argentina, solar and wind energy. And well, it was great participating in this, and I hope this is not the only chance we have to explore opportunities together, and the cooperation is the way we should go all together. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Diego.
Yeah, to close out my remarks, I really recommend those participating today to jump into that trend that I'm seeing right now, which is nearshoring. And there's plenty of opportunities in Mexico, in Central America, in Honduras, Guatemala. If you're producing your goods in the US, you would find lots of really good companies in Mexico at third of the cost that can help you out. So that's the future. Actually, the future is changing, not because of the political and economic war that we're seeing between the US and China, but actually because China is becoming very expensive to produce, and wages in China are right now 30% higher than what you find in Mexico. So just keep that in mind. It's not because of Trump, not because of Biden, because of the geopolitical landscape is changing right now. And I think Latin America is the future in terms of exporting your goods and your services, and also importing services from Latin America, because as Camilo and everyone had said before, plenty of talent available. I think plenty of opportunities. Of course, you will find risks, but use artificial intelligence, use ChatGPT to get a sense of what's happening in Mexico, what's happening in Peru. Actually, 10% of the traffic that is coming into ChatGPT is actually generated in Latin America. So if you're looking to radically change the way that you operate, you would find very good talent in Latin America that can be your advisor in terms of how to leverage ChatGPT, for instance, or artificial intelligence. So plenty of opportunities available. You just have to take action. That's my last comment. Don't procrastinate, just take action.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Angela.
Thank you, Ricardo. I would like to finish just by saying that in Peru, we have great space for investment in traditional markets, such as the ones I recalled, mining and agro export, but also there is a great deal of digital businesses that are growing a lot in Peru. So I think as a country, we can offer a great stability and great growth expectatives for investment. So I think it's been great to be able to share that with you. And if you have any question or any further discussion about Peruvian markets, I'm all ears.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angela. I'll go to Camilo.
Yeah, as a closing remarks, I think Diego and Keter actually touched on the points that I was going to make. So reaching out for talent, please, Latin America, Colombia is a good testing ground. So the opportunities are there because the talent is actually available. In Colombia, there's one thing, the talent is quite creative. So if you want to, if you have a startup, if you want to, test a new technology or test a new solution, and then you need, expand your talent, Colombia is a place to, to explore. So nearshore services, Web 3.0, all the metaverse, avatars, digital content creation, all of that's good stuff, man. Reach out to Colombia, reach out to me, or reach out to whoever you want to, but, explore Latin America. Ricardo is actually a good witness of what he's, done in Latin America. So do not hesitate to just reach out once, we're done with this webinar. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Andrea.
Oh, well, I think that basically Camilo said already what I was going to say. In the field of technology, apps, and video games, there are a lot of opportunities here in Colombia that are growing. And also, like, the workforce, it's so good right now here in Colombia. As I mentioned it, basically 50% have like a university degree, and 30% technical and technological degree. So I think that it's like a huge field to invest here in Colombia.
Awesome. Well, this has been incredible, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the wealth of information that you've shared. I mean, you sticked with us, and so I think you found this information valuable. Our leader, Akita Patterson, will unmute now to express our gratitude for us. Akita.
Hi, my name is Akita Patterson. I sit on the governing board of directors for the Atlanta Black Chambers. And yes, a special thank you to all of our panelists for sharing your time, your expertise, your knowledge in each of your areas in Latin America. Mr. Diego Rodriguez, Logistics and Industry Director for the Americas Mart in Miami. Angela Valdilla, the Legal Coordinator of Privacy with Legal Digital Peru. Mia Williams, Independent Advisor for Argentina. Mr. Camilo Osana, Independent Consultant for Colombia. Also, Mr. Abdul Mohammed, Founder and Chief Growth Officer for MDM Ventures. Dr. Melinda Botto, Founder and Chairperson. She's also in the 6th Region Global Chamber of Commerce. She's out in Panama. Mr. Kadar Whittle, our own ABC member from Atlanta, doing business in Colombia, founder and CEO of Educators Now, and Andrea Devia, partner at Martinez Devia and Associates law firm out in Colombia. Special thanks, of course, to our chair of the Global Opportunities Committee and our host today, Mr. Ricardo Barris. We want to thank again, really quick, Ms. Carolina Niso for dropping in with us. Would like to give special thanks and appreciation to our co-chair, Ms. Sonia Boatwright, and other members of our leadership, Melba Clayton, Lauren Levins, who did our introduction for us coming in today. Very marvelous, Lauren, Dr. Dawn Sizemore. Also, our president, Melvin Coleman, was with us earlier. We'd like to thank all of our ABC members who are attending and supporting us today, and also all of the attendees that are not ABC members. We appreciate you all coming in and listening and being a part of this. If you would like an opportunity to review this Zoom meeting, then you can find it. If you're a member of the Atlanta Black Chambers, you can find it on our members only Facebook page. And if you're not yet a member of Atlanta Black Chambers, it's a great opportunity and one of the many reasons to join ABC. You can do that at atlantablackchambers.org. Ricardo, really quick, can you give them the contact information if they'd like to be a part of the next part of this doing business in Latin America opportunity? Because we'll have another one in a month, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So in a month, it's going to be not a webinar. It's just going to be a call with a selected amount of you who have expressed interest. So if you are part of the GOC committee or part of the chamber, reach out to us at the Global Opportunities Committee. You can put your information in the chat. The survey that Dr. Sizemore is sharing will also have information that we can connect with you as well.
Thank you all and have an amazing day.
Well, thank you. And in the words of our Latin friends, we say nos vemos pronto. Hasta, how we say hasta la tarde, no? Later in the afternoon, we'll see you, or ciao. Well, thank you so much for stopping, and we'll see you sometime soon in another webinar. Good afternoon, everybody.
Ciao.
Bye.
Gracias.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Gracias a todos.
Thank
Y'all
you.
just wanna-
Gracias.
You heard me
This
say
is
ciao.
for all.
I'm
Thank
getting
you.
acquainted.